the main incentive for us to be holding this seminar is to encourage you to take a look at the Marie Curie programs and to apply if this suits your needs and your research priorities. It's important for me to say that Israel, not just Tel Aviv University, but Israel generally, all the universities in Israel, while they do very, very well in the various Horizon programs, ERCs and Erasmus programs and so on, with Marie Curie, we don't do well as a country. Just to give you an example, last year, I think 25 people overall in Israel submitted to the postdoc program for Marie Curie, and there were no Israeli winners. And just to put this in proportion, in the UK, 347 people were awarded the postdoc fellowship. In Spain, 182, in Italy, 174. So the numbers are very large in other places in Europe. And of course, there are a lot of very good reasons why we're having a difficult time these days with international programs such as this one. But even before the war, Israel never took much advantage of the opportunities of Marie Curie. And I think that the main reason for that is that the research authorities in the universities, including our own university, did not encourage faculty to apply because A, this is a program that has to do with recruiting international students, doctoral students and postdoc students, and the research authority did not see that as a part of their main platform. And a second reason is that the Marie Curie submissions and the kind of care that we need to give the winners in terms of the students who come here takes a lot of work. And as a result of that, the research authority did not think that they are well equipped to address these challenges and didn't encourage faculty to submit. This is why we at the Lowy International School, together with the Research Authority, made a decision to move the submissions and the caretaking of this program to the International School so that we can be a supportive agent both for submissions and for dealing with the students who actually come here in the best way possible. And I'm very, very happy to say in that context that we were able to find the wonderful Naama Goldfield, who will be running today's webinar, to work full-time with you on Marie Curie submissions and management. So Naama, first of all, thank you for joining Tel Aviv University and thank you for taking this project onto yourself. Naama is part of Sharon Ziv Kafri's team, which, as many of you know, is the team that's responsible for developing our international collaborations more widely. And with no further ado, Naama, I turn to you and tell us about Marie Curie.
Thank you so much, Milet. So we'll just get started. Okay. So as Milet said, my name is Naama. I joined the Lowy International School just over 6 months ago as the project coordinator for the Marie Curie program. The full name of the program is the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, or for short, MSCA. So I'll be using the acronym MSCA, or real short, we'll call it Marie Curie. And like Milet said, my role is to support both faculty and incoming international research students throughout the whole life cycle of MSCA, from the proposal stage into onboarding the international researchers that are coming, all the mobility procedures and administration, and as well as to the end of the life cycle through reporting at the end of the grant. Today, we'll just give some context. We'll briefly speak about the international school and talk about Marie Curie actions at large. And then I will talk specifically about what is an MSCA doctoral network. That is one of the programs, and that's pertinent to you as faculty members. And I'll explain what the benefits are and why we think you should participate. And then we'll go a little bit into the details of the requirements and understanding them. There will be slides that will be just for you that I'll send out at the end of the webinar. So you'll be able to look at them and links, etc. And at the end, we'll talk about next steps and there'll be a Q&A portion. You're welcome to write questions in the chat in Hebrew or in English, whatever you feel most comfortable throughout the webinar, so that at the end of the webinar, we will address those questions. And just to let you know, the webinar is recorded and will be shared at the end, in addition to the slides that will be sent to you as well. Okay, so like Milet said, the Lowy International School is responsible for implementing the university's international strategy. Specifically, I'm a part of Sharon's team. She's joined with us here today as well, so thank you for your support and everything, Sharon. We develop a long-term multi-institutional academic partnerships internationally that help research and mobility and teaching. The Lowy International School is also the hub for international students. We work on recruiting and integrating international students, and including researchers like postdocs and PhDs. And the international school also advances and gives opportunities for faculty members and students for internationalization at home. I just want to mention that during normal years, whatever that looks like, the Lowy International School supports approximately 2,000 international students. And we also have a team here that has the student services team expertise in visa, housing, insurance, and all aspects of student life. So that's one of the reasons we'll explain the ins and outs of Marie Curie. But because we're dealing with the Marie Curie grant deals with bringing students at the end of the day, we are equipped to handle and have the know-how on how to support them so that you can focus on the research and don't have to worry about helping your international researchers with their visas. So now I'll go into the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. Of course, this grant, it's been now around for 30 years. This year is the 30th anniversary, and it's named after Marie Curie, the amazing physicist and chemist. So Marie Curie sits under the EU's Horizon Europe framework, which is, you might be familiar with ERC. So just like ERC has multiple programs that fall under ERC, different grants that are in the ERC umbrella, Marie Curie works in the same way. There are a number of Marie Curie calls throughout the year. And specifically, unlike other grants like ERC, for example, the fundings and the philosophy behind Marie Curie is that the funding is channeled through the employment of excellent international research fellows, and is really focusing on developing the careers of early stage researchers. So there's a strong emphasis on the quality of the training and supervision, and also international mobility. So I bolded previously the employment of the international research fellows because unlike other grants which give funding and then part of that funding goes to fund the researchers through a scholarship, the Marie Curie's principles really emphasize the importance of fair employment. And would like to develop the careers of these early stage researchers from the beginning so that they're able to accrue pension. And that's why there is a requirement and there's reporting that needs to go into this, and it's very strict that the international research fellows need to be employed, salaried employees of the university. So that adds just another complexity that is mostly administrative. And again, there have been issues in the past with that administratively, and part of the reason that I'm here is to support the faculty members with ensuring that everything goes smoothly on that end. So again, you can focus on the research. Like many other grants that you know, in the EU especially, Marie Curie is focused on bringing excellent students. Unlike other grants, Marie Curie is called bottom up. So you can choose any topic and come from any discipline. It's not just science, like they call it excellent science, but it is any discipline from life sciences to humanities, social science, etc. There's a strong emphasis on industry collaboration with academia, international cooperation and mobility, and of course, the social impact of the research itself. I think it's pretty clear that this program is very beneficial and has a huge impact on the lives and careers of early stage researchers, but you might be asking what's in it for me as a faculty member. So that's a great question. Of course, first and foremost, Marie Curie is a tool to access funding for recruitment of researchers. Because the prestige of the program and it's very selective, and so it's giving you access to top global talent, hopefully giving you better research quality. The international aspect of it, and the intercooperation with other institutions allows for knowledge transfer. Um, of course, improving doctoral programs, the prestige, and shaping the future of research. But I think really the important piece here with Marie Curie and the added value and how Marie Curie differs from other grants is the strategic partnerships that faculty members can build through the international consortia. It's really that is, I think, the highlight of this program for faculty members. So just to give you a brief overview, as part of Horizon Europe, Israel is associated into this program and specifically associated into Marie Curie. So in addition to the EU member states, the associated countries have most of the same privileges that the EU member states have in order to form a consortia. I will go into the details of that in just a moment, but just so you can see, these are the countries that we are fellows with. So just like I said, like ERC has multiple different types of grants under the ERC umbrella, so does Marie Curie. Currently, there are 6 different kinds of MSCA grants. There have been others in the past, and they have changed their names. So if you're more veteran, you might have heard other types of names or programs. In the past, the doctoral networks has been called ITN, which stood for Innovative Training Networks. So they changed the name, but I think in essence, it's the same concept. Tel Aviv University, since we have basically just started this project of supporting and encouraging faculty members to apply for a Marie Curie, these 2 grants are our focus currently. We're going to talk specifically about doctoral networks in just a moment, but I just want to mention that the other Marie Curie programs, Staff Exchange, Co-Fund, faculty members at Tel Aviv University have won them in the past. And if you happen to be interested in any of them, of course, you feel free to reach out to me, and I'll try to support you as best as possible. But right now, we're trying to drum up some excitement about these 2 programs. I'll just say, in a nutshell, the postdoctoral fellowships, which is not what we're going to be focusing on today, those are where potential postdocs apply, submit a proposal, and get approval that they will be hosted by a researcher at the university, a PI, who agrees to host them. So they submit their proposal. Once they get the agreement from the PI, and if they win, then they come to Tel Aviv University. We onboard them. They're hired as salaried employees here, but there's no recruitment that needs to be done. The proposal is mostly written by the postdoctoral researcher, so the faculty don't play as active a role in the pre-stage of the proposal. There's less of a role that they play in the application, and you're not as active in that process until the actual fellowship begins. However, the doctoral networks is a different setup. The doctoral networks, or actually the proposal is created by a consortium of institutions. So the faculty members need to either join a consortia or create a consortia, or take a pre-existing consortia that they're a part of and apply together to submit a proposal. You write, the application together. Define the research project. So there's both the research project that happens like at large, and also specifically for the doctoral student that you would be recruiting to your campus. There's very innovative ways of interdisciplinary teams that are working to talk about one specific issue. If the doctoral network wins the grant, after that process of signing the grant agreement and so forth, then begins the process of hiring the doctoral candidates. So the students kind of come at the end in the doctoral networks, whereas in the faculty members kind of start the whole process. Whereas in postdoctoral fellowships, it's kind of the other way around. So like I said, Tel Aviv University, we are trying to encourage as much participation as possible. Israel as a country pays into the Horizon Europe system, so we want to make sure that we're maximizing the potential and that we invest in this because there is a lot of value to the international cooperation that happens. Every year there are calls, and we encourage you to apply for them and to also, be open to hosting postdoctoral fellowships. And like I said in the past, we're supporting both the faculty, myself, the faculty, the current MSCA students that are here already and working, and the international applicants who are interested in potentially being hosted at Tel Aviv University. Okay, so now I'm going to specifically speak about the doctoral networks. Again, that is the consortia that delivers a joint research project. The doctoral training is very structured. There's an emphasis on career development for the early stage researchers that are coming. There's an emphasis on mobility. So in addition to the international research student coming here, they are also encouraged to go on a secondment and spend some time abroad at another institution to increase their exposure and interdisciplinary collaboration. So kind of some technical details. Depending on the type of doctoral network, and I'll speak about that in just a moment, the funding for the duration of the research that is given is between 36 and 48 months. It's important to be aware that the program itself, like the whole timeline of the grant can be longer, the whole signing the agreement and everything, and it's important to note that this period is typically shorter than the length it takes to complete a PhD program, as I'm sure you know. So therefore, it's important to take that into account and make sure that there is available funding from other sources to ensure through the completion of the doctorate of the international student. Again, it can be in any research field, and as long as the students are subject to the mobility requirements, they can be of any nationality. So mobility requirements basically means that the student couldn't have lived here for the past X amount of years. So a lot of times Israeli passport holders or Israeli citizens or can qualify if they haven't lived here in quite some time, but typically they are international. And now we're going to talk specifically about the requirements and to understand the details of the doctoral networks. So the consortium is again the body that applies. It's a consortium of a few nodes that are different legal entities from any sector worldwide. So in our case, of course, you'd be applying as part of Tel Aviv University and an academic institution. But the other beneficiaries might not be necessarily universities. They could be nonprofit organizations, high-tech companies, hospitals, museums, etc. So that's part of the interdisciplinary collaboration. But there needs to be a minimum of 3 beneficiaries from 3 different either EU countries or associated countries. So Israel, for example, is an associated country. One of the beneficiaries at least needs to be an EU member state. And each beneficiary must recruit at least a minimum one full-time doctoral candidate. The contribution of the funding is limited to 40% per country or single organization. And one of the organizations needs to serve as a coordinator, and it can be from an associated country. Being a coordinator for the consortium requires a lot of work, mostly administrative, and so therefore it's not something that typically a faculty member can take on. It takes too much time away from the research, and so they hire a project manager to do all the administrative work for them. There is a professor on campus, George Wise from electrical engineering, who has been a coordinator for many years. For Marie Curie programs, basically the consortia just kept going and applying for grants for a few years. And he hired Brigitte, and she's fantastic. So if you are interested in being a coordinator, I can of course give you some information and as well connect you to them to hear about that experience. Because it requires more work and of course bringing on another staff member, the coordinator does receive additional funding for that. So here's just a visual example of the minimum consortium. This is, the minimum is required is 3, but there are consortia that have, 15 or more institutions as beneficiaries, which of course means that there's a lot of PhD candidates in the network. So this example, you can see that there's a country from the EU and the 2 other countries are associated countries. They each have at least 1 PhD candidate. And for this example, 2 of the organizations are academic institutions and 1 of them is an industry. So there are 3 types of doctoral network modalities. Everything I've explained up until now pretty much falls into the standard doctoral network category. So there is potentially, if the institutions are academia and industry, so there's joint supervision in academia and industry. But it's not necessarily like a structured part of it. So there could be like 1 company or non-academic institution, and the rest of the institutions would be academia. In an industrial doctorate, so it's called DNID, the candidate must spend at least half of the time in a non-academic sector. And so by definition, the training and the joint supervision is both in academia and industry. It's more focused towards industry. And there's also another model called a joint doctorate. So that's DNJD. They're very strong on acronyms in Marie Curie and in the European Union in general. And so in the joint doctorate, you might be familiar with joint doctorates and other constellations, but joint doctorate is where there's a joint collaboration between multiple institutions that leads to a joint or multiple doctoral degrees for each PhD candidate. So the candidate would be getting a PhD from Tel Aviv University and Cornell University, for example. And because there is the academic collaboration here, the admission process also needs to be joined, and the supervision, of course, needs to be joined. This is something that in the international school, on the international development team, we have experience with drafting these kinds of agreements and all of the administration that needs to happen behind the scenes for joint doctorates. So again, that's one of the reasons that this has come to us, because we can help support faculty members if they're interested in this kind of modality. I won't spend too much time on this. We'll be sent this and we'll be able to look at all the details. But again, it's important to note that for standard and industrial doctorates, the fellowship duration that is funded is between 3 and 36 months. For joint doctorates, it's a little bit longer, until 48 months. When we say the entire project duration, it's between 4 and 5 years. That includes the whole life cycle of the program. I did mention earlier the secondments. So secondments, for those of you who don't know, it's a short research training period at a partner organization around the world. It can be either half of the fellowship duration or even longer, and they can be divided into smaller periods. But basically, in addition to the international student coming to Tel Aviv University, they also spend a month, 2 months or more at different places around the world to have kind of exposure to different training methods or techniques or systems. The supervision, again, is joint. I spoke about this in the previous slide. And same thing, I won't go into all of the details, but this basically breaks down the grant budget. The left-hand side refers to the amount that the fellow gets per person per month. And the right side is the contribution, again, that the institution would get per person month. So if you have 2 fellows, this would be twice of this amount per month. There's the mobility allowance and the living allowance, which is the basic salary that the fellow would receive. It's subject to the country correction coefficient here, which is there's more details about that. It's just important to note that this amount is what's called in Hebrew the alut ma'asik, or is the total amount that's going to be given for to the university that includes taxes that's going to be later deducted. So the amount that is going to be the gross salary for the fellow will be a little bit less than this because we need to take away the taxes that the university pays to employ them. On the right-hand column, the research, training, and networking contribution and management and indirect cost. The research is, of course, for the materials and the research itself in your lab or in the research. And the training and networking refers to conferences, meetings, international events that happen to develop the career of the fellow. Just some important requirements. The industrial doctorates and joint doctorates also have additional requirements. And so if anyone is interested in those, I will provide those with you as well. There is a 40% rule. So maximum 40% of the budgets, the beneficiaries can be from the same country. And it's just important to understand this as you're building the budgets and to build realistic budgets. If the budget violates this rule, then that is an automatic rejection from the grant. So it's just important to be aware of this. Additionally, like many other EU programs, there is an emphasis on the gender equality plan. And so Tel Aviv University has one. So just make sure that you speak with me about making sure that you're updated on our gender equality plan. If you have submitted a Marie Curie proposal in the past, which I think there have been a number of faculty members here who have, you may not resubmit if the proposal scored below 80% from the 2025 proposal, or if it has 70% or more of the same organizations that applied with you in the past. The selection criteria. So there's three basic factors that go into the criteria: excellence, impact, and implementation. And I will say again, the emphasis of the Marie Curie program is not just on the soundness of the science and the innovation and the impact of it, which is of course important, but it's also about how each of these factors relate to the development of the careers of the early stage researchers. So for excellence, it's the scientific quality and the value of the training program to make sure it's ambitious and innovative research, of course, but also that the recruitment process is strong and that there is international, intersectoral opportunities, and the supervision and career development is strong. And there's also an emphasis on open science practices. So later there is a link where you can read more about open science and those principles if you're not familiar with them. The next criteria is the impact, to kind of measure the long-term value for the science itself and the research careers. So not only does the proposal improve research practices but also enhances the employability of the research and develops their skills. Another thing that's very important is the dissemination and communication plan. The impact of the science is is important, but they need to understand how you're going to be disseminating and communicating the importance of the study. And also, of course, showing the wider societal benefit. And lastly is the implementation. How well can the consortium deliver? So of course, the work plan and the timelines and the budget needs to be credible and realistic. There needs to be a strong management structure, risk assessments, that the workload is distributed in a way that makes sense, that the institutions and partners are working well together. So this is just to make sure that there's a well-oiled machine that can really take on what you're promising to deliver. And that, of course, there is the right kind of expertise that the consortium is comprised of. So next steps and where to start. If this sounds interesting to you, this is the time to begin. So first of all, you need to find a partner. So the number one way to find a partner is use your existing networks and connections, LinkedIn, of course, or any other online or in-person resources that you may have. There's also the Your Access portal and specifically the MSCA matchmaking platform, which if you're interested in, I can help you create a profile and connect it to Tel Aviv University. And it's really important to know before you apply that to start planning early. The consortium building needs to start essentially now. We were supposed to have this webinar before Passover, but then the war happened, so things got a little bit delayed. But now is the time to start building the consortium, and there's still enough time to really build a strong proposal before the deadline in late November. The idea now is to really clarify the roles and the parameters, hold meetings, and to start writing. It's important to start writing early. There is official templates that you can use and kind of annotated templates that we will supply you with, and really align to the evaluation criteria like I spoke about. There's also a more detailed rubric that I can send you if you're interested. It's also really recommended to submit the drafts frequently in the EU portal, EU Funding and Tenders portal, first so that you can become familiar with it, and just make sure that if there's any issues that you can smooth them out before the deadline date. And of course, part of my role is to help you proofread and sharpen your drafts, so please feel free to send them to me for editing help. Just a quick timeline. So like I said, now is the time that we are focusing on confirming the roles and participation. On May 28th, excuse me, the call will open and we'll send a reminder for that as well. The kind of key time to be drafting the proposal phase is June and July. Of course, August and September as well, but just note that in Israel, of course, we're in the holidays in September, and many European countries in August go on vacation and are not available. So those months, don't rely on August and September to be the months that you're getting the majority of the work done. Those should be more independent review times, since you might not have access to your colleagues at that time. The final reviews and any approval you might need from institutions is in October and November. And the final deadline for submitting the proposal is November 24th, 5 p.m. Brussels time. Then from December to March, the proposals are submitted and then distributed to evaluators. There are different panels that are divided by keywords. So if you are from the world of electrical engineering, for example, the evaluators are faculty members and experts from the general field, but they may not be specifically from your exact field. But it's not that a literature professor is going to be reviewing engineering proposal. There's a minimum of 3 evaluators on each proposal that are just against the evaluation criteria, and the panels review and score proposals in the same panel again. So I will say that a number of TAU faculty members have been evaluators for Marie Curie in the past. I have spoken with them and gotten their feedback about what this process is like, and I'm also happy to connect you with them if you'd like to hear specifically from their experience what evaluators are looking for and what the process looks like more in detail. Just going back to our general timeline. Once the call results are announced in April of 2027, so basically almost a year from now, we'll hear who the winners are, and if you win, then the grant agreement and consortium agreement are prepared and the signatures are circulated. And again, that is where I'll be there in that process. That happens around July. And finally, in August of 2027, the project will launch, and the recruitment, which is again a joint recruitment of the doctoral candidate, begins. So again, like I said, the administrative support happens, the signing agreements, including the research, the recruiting and onboarding the international research fellow. And this is where our expertise in the visa, housing, salary, etc. comes into play here, where we can support you with that. And of course, the support for administrative things goes on through the whole grant and through the end of the reporting period. Just to give you, in a nutshell, a couple of statistics, like Mirat said in the very beginning, Marie Curie is a very prestigious and selective grant. And unfortunately, as Israel, we haven't fully taken advantage of this yet, and the numbers this year reflect that. Of course, there are other complexities internationally that contribute to that, but in general, not just this year, Israel, we can push to do a little bit better. So this year's call in 2025, that was just the results were just announced. They received 1,600 applications, and there's been year after year, they become more and more selective and competitive because there are more applicants and the number of funding and proposals that they accept don't really change. But there's been a 14% increase compared to the year before. 141 doctoral networks won. And 73 Israeli institutions applied, with only 3 of them winning this year for doctoral networks. Here are a couple of resources that I will send to you. I really recommend, I just want to speak specifically, it's towards the bottom, the Doctoral Networks Unofficial Handbook through Radiance. It's an excellent place to start. A lot of the European Union documents and writing, it's very, very wordy and dense and hard to understand. So that would be a good place to start. Has a little bit more simplified language. And that's it. So I'd like to open the floor for questions. You're welcome to write them in the chat or ask just with your voice. And for those of you who need to step off the Zoom, please feel free to write down my email and reach out to me. And like I said in the beginning, the webinar recording and the slides will be sent to all of the participants at the end of the session.
Now we already have one question, or actually 3, but from the same person in the chat. So the first would be, students must be after a master's, since specifically doctoral candidates, probably there was supposed to be some kind of a, so the answer would be obviously yes, right?
Yes.
In the standard doctoral network, I don't see many specific requirements. Is there still big bureaucracy and administration in that case for the coordinator?
Yes, so the coordinator position is actually being the liaison between the European Union project officer and the rest of the consortium. So all of the approvals that need to happen within the portal, there's I don't want to get into too many nitty-gritty details, but for example, the recruitment process of the doctoral students. So you would be leading that, making sure that the rules are being followed and how the recruitment is being posted and how interviewing the candidates works. Then once the candidates are selected, to organize all of their career development plans, for example. So you would be responsible for ensuring that all of the PIs turn in their career development plans and that things are being logged in the portal appropriately. So that's where the majority of the work of the coordinator happens. Today we spoke a lot about what you need to get started and just the general framework, but throughout the course of the MSCA program, there are kind of milestones that need to be met, and the coordinator's position is to manage those with all the consortium members. Of course, the larger the consortium, I think the more complicated it is. There's just more people.
The third would be no funding for research salary bonus.
I'm not sure exactly what you meant by that, but the PIs.
The symbol would be no, like the PI do not receive a bonus for the salaries, unlike other might be, Horizon frameworks. So
exactly, yeah.
And Yuval is also asked here, and then I will hand it to Amit who raised his hand. Does the consortium ask a budget only for students, or there is some kind of research budget as well?
No, so there is a research budget as well. That was the slide that breaks it down into the budget. There is a left column and a right column. I can pull it up in a moment. So there is it's not huge, but there is a budget that goes towards the research itself and of course the development, like going to conferences and so forth. It's the research training and networking is 1,600 euros per person per month.
Amit.
And Amit.
Hi, thanks. I'm not sure if you want to take this question, but I wanted to ask about the fellowship, the postdoc fellowship. Is that okay? Because that is more relevant for me at least. And I have 2 questions about that. First of all, you described it as if the institution and the supervisors are pretty passive at the proposal stage, and I know from my time at the UK that the institutions put quite a lot of active efforts to attract candidates to apply with them. And my question, as first of all, whether you have any plans to do that, and any ideas about how to attract candidates to apply with us. And the second question is about our side, except for, I mean, not except, I get that we get here funding for a postdoc, a very generous funding for postdoc. Just to reiterate Yuval's question, there's no kind of significant money for the research itself or for kind of the bonus salary, right? Either A or B. And the third question, the third aspect is what is in it for Tel Aviv University. And my concern is that it's unlike the ERC, which there's a lot of money and prestige, if there's not enough for the university, I'm worried that the support we'll get both at the application stage and the maintenance stage might not be adequate. So I just wanted to cover all this.
Nama, maybe I'll take 1 and 3.
Okay.
One about recruitment, and this applies to Marie Curie, but it also applies to other efforts by faculty to recruit postdocs. Of course, we understand that you're the first line in identifying the right candidates from the right places, and it's really not something that we can do in your place to know where to find the right postdocs. However, we do work with certain units, departments, schools, and with individual faculty members who are actively researching recruitment possibilities to try to help them. For example, we've just appointed one representative in India and one representative in China, whose sole role, really, or main role at least, is to work with faculty members in order to locate good candidates for postdocs. But we also have support in other places in the world as well. So if you would like to help us reach out for potential candidates, whether for Marie Curie or otherwise, then please be in touch with us. And this is something we can help to do. What's in it for the university? The university has a very clear goal strategically in terms of internationalization, and that is to grow significantly the number of international PhD and postdoc students. It's not necessarily the strategic goal of the research authority, which is what I began with, which is why for years they didn't really do anything with Marie Curie. It is certainly on the agenda of myself as VP International and the International School. So our goal is your goal, to bring here excellent students. And Marie Curie is just a wonderful opportunity that hasn't been tapped into. And that's why we'd like to support you in applying.
Thank you, Milet. Amit, can you just remind me again, just with a few words, the second question?
Well, it was sorry. First of all, thank you for the reply. My questions were about the kind of the what's in it for us thing. I understand we get brilliant students, and I know that some of them come. I mean, again, being in the UK, I see how dominant it is in kind of in the field. But the question is not only about the bonuses, which are nice, but also mainly about the kind of what contribution we can draw from that to the research, other than having a person, additional brilliant person on the staff.
So in addition to what I mentioned with, I think, Yuval's question, with the contribution that goes towards the research, which is I think I said 1,600 euros per person per month. The benefit of Marie Curie, and specifically doctoral networks, but I think this also has to do with postdoctoral fellowships as well and other Marie Curie programs. The added value here is really the networking opportunities, the international cooperations. I spoke with faculty members who currently are part of a doctoral network and have fellows here. So of course their fellows are, wonderful, but not necessarily different, maybe more prestigious or more impressive than other doctorates that would come from other grants. But really the added value is, is the network. So a faculty member spoke about how he is in a very specific very niche research field, and having a network really gives exposure to his research. And the network, again, this is, I think someone asked about the coordinating. This is like where there's a lot of activities that happen within the network throughout the life cycle of the grant. So there are different meetings, and the doctoral students are required to like, let's say, give lectures or to organize lectures. There's a lot of work that happens within the network, and then being able to expose your research and to have, a consortium of peers, that's, I think, really the added value, more than just the, euros that you're going to get into the research.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit. Any other questions? Okay. I'd like to thank everyone for joining. I hope we whet your palate and made you a little interested in Marie Curie. And of course, you're welcome to reach out to me. I'll write my email in the chat. And please feel free to ask any questions. I'm also located in the greenhouse on Tel Aviv University's campus. So if you would like to come say hi and ask me in person, I'm also happy to communicate with you that way. Good luck to everyone, and I hope to hear from people. Thank you so much.